Welcome to lesson 5.1. In this lesson, we're going to talk about solving triangles. So let's start with defining what it means to solve a triangle. If I ask you to solve a triangle, I'm asking you to find the length of each side of the triangle and the measure of each of its angles. That is how you solve a triangle. You need to find all the sides and all the angles. So we're going to start right here with a right triangle. Something I want you to notice before we even get started on this is the pairs relationship that we've noted before. That if you have a side that you label A and you go across from that side, you also get angle A. If you get a side that's B and you go across from that side, that's angle B. And if you get a side that's C and go across from that side, that's angle C. Now, these are actually Greek letters. This is alpha, beta, and then we also normally use gamma. Those are the three most common Greek letters we use when we talk about angles. Alpha, beta, gamma. So, here's what I would like you to do. You should be able to solve this problem on your own. It's a right triangle. So, you need to find side A. I would suggest you use Pythagorean theorem for that. You need to find angle alpha. You could use trig, so katoa for that. And then you need to find angle beta, which you can use our 180 degrees minus 90 minus alpha to find beta. So pause the video, try to solve this triangle, find all the sides and angles on your own, and then come back to check your work. Let's check your work. So I used Pythagorean's theorem to solve for A first. I got square root of 33. Then I used SOHCAHTOA to solve for alpha. I used cosine and used the two sides that were given to me for sevenths to get that alpha is 55.15 degrees. And then use my 180 rule to solve for beta. Now, that's all well and good when it's a right triangle. We've been dealing with right triangles for months at this point. However, this chapter, chapter 5, is not about right triangles. This is the one chapter in all of 1060 where we look at what if it's not a right triangle, meaning if it's an obtuse or acute triangle. How do we solve those? We solve those using the law of sines or the law of cosines. Which law we use depends on what information is given in the triangle. So let's start today with the law of sines. This right here is the law of sines. Probably want to highlight it. We have two different versions. I usually use this one with the sign on top. We got sine of alpha over A equals sine of beta over B equals sine of gamma over C. Now, here's the important part. What do we need to be able to use the law of sines? Because this will be an important thing for you to know, is how to look at a triangle and know, should I use the law of sines or the law of cosines to solve this triangle? If you have a complete set, that is your sign to use the law of sines. By complete set, I mean you know both A and alpha, or you know both B and beta, or you know both C and gamma. If you have a complete set, use the law of sines. If you don't have a complete set, that's where we turn to the law of cosines, which we'll talk about next lesson. Now, there's a couple cases where we use the law of sines. We're going to define each of these today. The first one is known as angle side. That is where you know two angles and a side that is not between those angles. That's what we call angle side. So we know two angles and then we know a side that is not between those two angles. So let's look at example 2 and draw this out so you can see an example of this angle side case. First off, I have alpha, which is 120 degrees. Now, one thing you're going to notice as we go through this lesson, it will be extremely helpful to you to try to draw accurate pictures. So if I want to draw 120 degrees, I'm not going to draw it like that. That is obviously not 120 degrees. I'm going to do something more like that. That looks more like 120 degrees. We also have a second angle that's going to be about 45 degrees. Doesn't matter where you put that second angle. You could put it down here or here. Again, does not matter. I'm going to do it right here. And notice that I tried to make it close to about 45 degrees. Half of a right angle. So there's my 45 degrees. I try to draw this triangle accurately. Now, if I know that A is 7 units, that's going to be across from alpha. So I go across from alpha to get this is 7 units. So first off, let's identify the angle side. I know 2 angles and a side that is not between the 2 angles. I also notice that I have a complete set. I have A and I have alpha. Anytime you see that complete set, that should tell you you're using the law of sines. So here's how we use the law of sines. Start by using the law of sines with your complete set. So you've got sine of the angle divided by the side. There's the law of sines with your complete set. Then we're going to set this equal to one of the sets that is not complete, the one I want to know something about. So I have beta, I need to solve for B, which if I label this, B is going to be across from beta. And then I'm also going to label this gamma with C across from gamma. So I'm going to find B, sine of beta over B. Now, anytime you're solving one of these equations, you know you've got it right if you only have one variable you're solving for. If you set up this equation and you have more than one variable you're solving for, that means you're doing it wrong. Go back and pick some different pairs. Now, to solve this, the easiest way to solve law of sines is to start by cross multiplying. So I'm going to multiply across. I get sine of 120 times B. And then multiply across 7 times sine of 45. Now I just have to solve for B. So divide by sine of 120. And then I just take this and type it into my calculator. Make sure that you are in degree mode. You will be in degree mode for all of Chapter 5. Everything we do in Chapter 5 will be in degree mode. It's probably the last time you'll be in degree mode in this class. I think most everything else is in radians. But this chapter, make sure you're in degree mode. So I type that into my calculator. And I get 5.715. So I now know B. So next, in order to find C, I need to know gamma. You have to know one of the pair to use law of sines. But I can use my 180 rule to find gamma pretty quickly. 180 minus the other 2 angles is going to give me that gamma is 15 degrees. And now that I know gamma, now I can set up law of sines again. Start with the pair you were given. There's my pair, alpha over A, equals the pair I want to find, sine of gamma over C. Same thing, cross multiply, and then solve for C. Type that into your calculator, and we get what C is. And you'll notice I have solved the triangle. I know all the angles, and I know all the sides. So that is your very first example of the law of sines. And this was an example of angle, angle, side, where we know two angles and a side that is not between the two angles. So let's try an example, last one for this video, where we've got angle, side, angle. This is where we know two angles and the side between them. Notice the difference between that. Angle, angle, side, we know a side not between them. Angle, side, angle, we know a side between the two angles. So we're going to start by trying to draw this accurately. I've got my first angle, which is 85 degrees, which is barely less than 90. I've got another angle, which is 30 degrees. So I'll make this one about 30-ish degrees. And make this bigger so you can see it a little better. So I'm going to make this beta, which is 30 degrees. And our alpha, which is 85 degrees. So that would make this side gamma, go across from alpha, that's side A, across from beta, that's side B, across from gamma, that's side C. And we know that side C is 5.25. So you can see here I have two angles and the side between them. That gives me my angle, side, angle. Now, right now, we don't have a complete pair yet. However, it's pretty easy to find what gamma is using our 180 rule. So 180 minus 85 minus 30 gives me that gamma should be 65 degrees. And now I have a complete set. I know C, I know gamma, that's my complete set. I can use law of sines. So we get sine of the angle I know divided by the side I know. There's my complete set. And at this point we could find A or B because I know alpha and I know beta. So it really doesn't matter which one you solve for next. Let's do alpha. So sine of 85 degrees, alpha over A. Now we just need to cross multiply and solve for A. Now that you've had a little bit of practice with this, I would like you to pause the video at this point, solve this all the way through for A, then set up a second problem over here where you use the complete set we started with and solve for B using beta. So pause the video, try solving for for A and B on your own, and then come back to check your work. Let's check your work. So I solved for A, I got 5.77. Then I used the pair I started with and the pair for B. To solve for B, I got B is 2.896. Notice I solved all the angles, all the sides, so I solved all the triangle. So that is our first two cases with law of sines, angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle. We have one more case to do with law of sines, which is side, side, angle. It gets a little more complicated though, so we're going to save that for the next video.